Hi, Sherls here. Thank you very much for stopping by my channel. I really appreciate you being here. If you haven't already, subscribing would mean the world to me. In this video, I am sharing with you my process of making the Cruising Through Time journal. I started by making the cover using junk envelopes. The dark envelope was already cut into the height of the paper, which was 8.5 inches. I used it as a template to cut the other envelope into the correct height. I wanted the envelope to have a side opening. That's why I only cut one side to the correct height. Then fold it over to close the opening I just made. I cut my self-adhesive white wallpaper, a leftover from our old house project, to almost 2 inches wide. I used this wallpaper to connect the two envelopes. First, I stacked the envelopes the opposite way I wanted it to look on the outside. I wanted the dark envelope with top opening to be the back cover and the white one with side opening to be the front. Because I wanted the wallpaper joint to be on the inside cover, I stacked the dark envelope on top of the white one, align it, then adhere roughly half the width of the wallpaper on one side, then, with the envelope still stacked, folded the other half of the wallpaper over. The wallpaper is longer than my cover height, so I needed to trim it off. Then, flip it so the joint is on the inside, and before I continue, I made sure that the envelopes don't have any opening cap. I printed the Cruising Through Time digital only on one side and picked one of the background pages to match my envelopes. I tore it into half, but my envelopes are 6 inches wide, wider than half of US letter size. Therefore, after I aligned the printed digital on the edge of the cover, I have a wide unmatched center gap. I have a plan for this. I forgot the cover closure mechanism I already decided. So here I peel off the back cover mat. Don't do this if you craft along this video. I was deciding which envelopes I wanted to use for my journal closure. The first envelope was rather too wide for my preference, and the second one was the perfect width, but the envelope closure flap was wide, and I had to peel back the back cover more, which I didn't think I would be able to do without tearing the digital. My third option, a standard size junk envelope, was a perfect width, but the window opening was too long for the height I had in mind. So, I used the other junk envelope I prepared on my table. I marked it on 5 inches on the back and 5.5 inches on the side with the window. Fold over the extra half inches to the other side and adhere it to make a pocket. The envelope has an interesting pattern on the inside. I plan to use it later, so I kept it on my table. Here, I decided to trim off the envelope a little bit to get a better look ratio. I trim it off to 4 inches wide. I use the same self-adhesive wallpaper to attach the small envelope pocket to the cover with the opening of the pocket facing the spine of the cover. Then, I use the same trick on attaching 2 big junk envelopes to attach the small one. The wallpaper was rather too white for this journal, so I inked it before re-adhering the back cover mat. I also inked the wallpaper joining the cover. However, in the next moment, I decided to cut the digital into half and left the center unmet just like the cover. The front cover envelope pocket opening wasn't straight, so I tidied it up before adhering the back cover. I remembered that I need to enforce the small envelope join before adhering the back cover, so I picked up some fabrics. A very thin fabric for the closure and a sturdy fabric for the journal spine. This is a rather long craft along. Therefore, I use a voiceover and speed up some processes. In near future, I will make a separate tutorial for some parts I'm doing in this craft along that's interesting, like the journal cover that I was doing. I was planning to use the same thick fabric to cover the inside and outside of the spine, but I decided not to. The fabric was thicker than a sheet of paper and it would add bulkiness to the journal cover. Therefore, I left it to decide later and made the small envelope pocket. I was about to start decorating the journal cover, then I decided to do it last. Before starting on the pages, I printed more digital. I printed some ephemera, 2 sheets in a page, and some pages as well, 2 sheets in a page. Some of the digitals that I already printed, I also printed the back side. Some that I wanted to fussy cut around the image, I left it white on the other side. I always enforce the back of the image I wanted to fussy cut with a packing tape. For me, the packing tape will make sure that the page won't get torn if I put bulky ephemera behind the fussy cut image. For this page, I decided to intersect the front of the green car with a rounded pocket. I also fussy cut the top of the green card to make a pocket for the other half of the page. This layout will make it as if the green card was driven out of the page to the front of the pocket. This will make the pocket looks more interesting. Then I picked some ephemera to decorate the pocket further. Later, I would sew this page and the back page together around the edges, and I wanted the small blue car to be on top of the stitches. For now, I would just clip the car on the page so I knew which car I would be using to further embellish this pocket. For this page, I decided to intersect the head of the squatting gentleman with a pocket, so it will make it as if the gentleman was sitting in front of the pocket. In my personal opinion, this small intersection will make the pages look more 3D. Before cutting the last page, I paired the pages to be sewn later. In the process, I noticed that I need to cut more of the green car. For this last page, I decided to cut the upper half of the handsome man's body and use it as a pocket. Before I commit to it though, I made sure that the pocket won't overlap with the other page's pocket. I adhered the part of the fussy cut digital that I didn't want to open to the back side. I did this to all 3 pages that were fussy cut. After I arranged the order of the pages between printed digitals and dyed papers, I sewed the edges of the camera. I did not use any book pages, magazine pages, or other pages for this journal. I want this journal to be very simple, and whoever I gifted this to won't be overwhelmed by it, especially if it is their first time seeing a junk journal. I printed one more sheet of the digital and added one more dyed paper. I like to alternate between printed digital and dyed paper. Here, I reorder it to the order that I like and adhere the pages that I miss. I had all my double pages sewed and I organized my fussy cut ephemera on an ephemera holder I made. This would make my life easier on the next step, decorating the pages. This embellishing part is pretty self-explanatory, so I will fast forward this step. The 2 things worth mentioning was that I glued the bookmark printout onto a tissue box opening to make a thicker bookmark, and that I turned one of the tickets into a dangle charm to decorate the paper clip used to clip the envelope onto the journal. By the way, I did this part after picking up my daughter, and she came to my craft room to join me. So you will hear some background noises of us talking. I decided to use my scrap to cover the inside spine. I originally planned to use a fabric so the spine is very strong. Then I thought that with the sturdy fabric on the outside, the inside cover should be okay to just be covered by a strip of paper. I cut my scrap into the height of the cover and 1.5 inches wide. The thing that I am assembling now is my DIY book cradle. It is a super useful tool and it is not hard to make. I have a tutorial showing you how to make it using just a strip of thin fabric and cereal boxes. I like to tap the journal spine on my table before placing it on the cradle and pierce. In my personal opinion, the tapping will make sure that the pages fall into the centerfold and therefore the binding will look neater. The last part before making ephemera to fill the pockets was to finish the cover. I wanted the small pocket to tuck on the embellishment of the cover, thus it acts as the journal cover. I decided to use one of the texts which I backed with a book page to make it thicker and sturdier. Then I work to decorate the small pocket. The small pocket can already be tucked securely behind the tag. However, I wanted to be sure that this closure mechanism is strong. So, I left one side of the pocket embellishment open to tuck the tag underneath it. After making a couple of ephemera to fill the pocket, I decided to do the rest of camera so this craft along doesn't get way too long. Lastly, before I conclude this craft along, I wanted to show you what I did with the smaller journal pages I printed. I, of course, fussy cut around it to make a hidden tuck spot, glued it together, and made a small booklet with it as the cover. Thank you for watching until the end of this speed up craft along. The original video length was around 2 hours 20 minutes. I hope I didn't speed up too much and cause you confusion or headache. I personally don't have much time to watch a long video and won't mind if the boring gluing or cutting part was sped up. This is my first time making this style of craft along. I would really appreciate it if you can give me feedback, even if it is a negative one. Any feedback is a chance for me to grow. Feel free to leave your questions in the comments if there are parts that's not clear. I will post a separate video showing the flip-through of the finished journal. Once the flip-through video is posted, I will add the link in the description box. The link to the digital I use in this craft along can also be found in the description box. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. It would mean the world to me. Happy crafting! Bye!